Hello and welcome, everybody. Today's talk is my take on how to apply product management approach in putting together your CV. I hope you will find a thing or two to take away. My name is Christine Sue. I'm a product person who loves problems. Right now, I lead the international product team at Twilio, working out what it takes to offer truly localized products and experiences to our international customers. Previously, I was head of product at a startup called Novastone, an instant messaging platform for financial services. Before that, I spent over a decade in investment banks, building digital products for clients and productivity tools for sales. I've been fortunate enough to have worked in Sydney, Australia, Hong Kong, and am now London-based. I'm thrilled to be here today, and thank you for tuning in. Over the past few years, I've built teams from scratch and hired my own replacement. I have looked at a fair amount of CVs. As a product person, I can't help but to see the world through my product lens. So today, I will share a few points on how to do that with this very important document of yours. Before we talk about the specifics, let's go over what I mean by product management skills. It really boils down to these few things. What I look for in PMs are the ability to frame problems, relentless customer obsession, ruthless prioritization and decision-making framework, and finally, data literacy. In classic product management speak, you start with the problem. A well-defined problem is half the solution. So, the CV. Why? What is it for? In short, it's a medium for communication from you, the job applicant, to the hiring team. The purpose is for them to assess if you qualify for an interview. The call to action to the hiring team is to get in touch with you. The trigger is them finding your profile relevant and interesting for the job that is open. Let's move on to the who. You should be aware most companies use an ATS, applicant tracking system. On your job submission, more likely than not, your CV would first get passed through the ATS to extract key information. There are lots of research online on ATS optimization, which I won't repeat here. The key points are stick to minimal formatting and use plain language. Just imagine handing your CV to Siri. After that, it would get in front of a recruiter. Usually, the recruiter would be the first human to review, picking out interesting profiles for the hiring manager to select from for first screens. Now, you have your personas. What do we know about them? Did you know, on average, each corporate job offer attracts 250 resumes? The typical employer will interview 4 to 6 candidates for the job, but only one will be successful. Also, 6 seconds is how long recruiters typically spend scanning a CV. So, what do time-poor folks love? There is nothing they love more than getting back time. Do them a favor, respect their time, and give some back to them. This quite easily could be what stands you apart from the other 200 applicants. In practice, how would you do that? Jobs to be done. If you are a product manager but don't know what jobs to be done is, you should read up on it. This is not an endorsement of the framework, but at minimum, you should be aware of it and have an opinion over when it's appropriate to use. For everyone else, Jobs to be done is a product development or innovation framework that focuses on a customer outcome. The customer in our case is the recruiting team. This is the usual job story template. The I here is from the customer's perspective. When sets the context for the situation. I want to indicates their motive. So I can is the outcome that they're looking to achieve. Let's step into their shoes and write a job story together. When I scan through a candidate's CV, I want to quickly assess his or her qualifications so I can decide on my next step. The keywords here are scan, quickly, and decide. Scan means that they're not reading every single word, they're skimming. Quickly reiterates that they are time constrained and have many applications to review. Decide is the outcome that they're looking for here. So how can you craft your CV to help them do that? Now, when it comes to the next step for the recruiter, they've only really got 3 choices: yes, no, and maybe. Most maybes don't get a second chance, so you should aim to be in the yes bucket. Keep it tight. By tight, I mean frictionless, concise, relevant. Let's start with frictionless. Sleep in your workout clothes. Now this here is a common tip for anyone trying to maintain a morning workout routine. Because let's face it, humans are inherently lazy. We never fail in taking the path of least resistance. This is why frictionless CX has become the battleground for products. When the recruiter only has 6 seconds to scan your CV, what would make it easier for them? Start with a file format that works cross-platform and won't get jumbled up. My personal preference is PDF. If you're sharing a Google Doc, make sure the recipient has access. Don't make them ask. Now, if your employer listed in your CV is not a well-known household name to folks in the industry, do them a favor. Include a website or a short blurb to provide context. Now let's move on to concise. Less is more. If your CV is more than 2 pages, it's unlikely you'll get a call back. Remember, the recruiter will be skimming information from the document, which means you need to use sections, bullet points, and highlights wisely. Keep it clean, simple, and professional. Who can read the text on my slide? None of you. My point exactly. But Christine, you said keep it to 2 pages max. How am I going to fit everything in? I need to use a tiny font. Well, what do you think an illegible page tells the recruiter? That you don't know what's important. If everything is important, nothing is. Your CV is a document. It's a piece of writing. Jotting down thoughts is easy. Writing is hard. Writing succinctly is very hard. Think of it like the elevator pitch. How can you catch someone's attention in 6 seconds? How can you stand out? Take the time to chew over your content and word choices carefully. I won't cover these at length, but please respect page margins, stick to 1 to 2 simple fonts, and please spell check. Just like when you do copywriting for your product, you double and triple check. It would be such a shame if your product has all the bells and whistles but gets disqualified if you missed an S somewhere. Think about this. When was the last time you went beyond page 2 on a Google search result? Relevance is king, especially when you're short on time. Read the job post carefully. Give the hiring team the credit they deserve. They've spent the time articulating their problem and gave you clues on what good looks like. If they're thoughtful, they would have specified the must-haves versus nice-to-haves and ideally listed in a stack-ranked order. Use your CV to provide a strawman answer that's appealing enough for them to speak to you. Outcome over output. One common mistake folks make is they list all the activities they performed in their previous roles. Okay, so you ran weekly meetings and prepared monthly reports, but how did they impact the business? Be careful not to conflate outcome and output. The recruiting team is much more interested in the business impact that you made than the number of tickets you closed. Outcomes are best expressed in numbers. It's easy for everybody to understand them. Whether it's sales revenue you contributed to, deals you closed, NPS score changes, these can all be expressed in quantitative terms. It's important to distinguish between numbers you personally contributed to versus numbers the team or company as a whole achieved. Remember, this is your CV, not a quarterly review of your employer. Iterate. Product managers should know this concept very well. We're always talking about MVP, MLP, experimentation, and feedback. So, how to apply those practices here? Ask for feedback. Really, it is that simple. It doesn't even have to be the hiring team. Ask a friend, ask someone in your professional network. Folks with good judgment are usually happy to be your sounding board, as long as you ask nicely. Get a handful of people to look over your CV. Be specific about what you'd like them to review. It often makes it easier for the person providing feedback. Listen carefully. Try not to get defensive. Ask follow-up or clarifying questions, and remember to thank them afterwards. Feedback is extremely valuable in product development. Product managers do this all the time with their customers to get new ideas, to shine light on blind spots. So should you. A typical active job seeker makes between 100 to 200 applications before they receive an offer. That's a whole lot of rejections. But it also means you can take it as an opportunity to try things out. The key here is to keep tabs. Experimentation starts with the hypothesis, and you collect data before and after to validate it. You may have heard of A/B testing. It's a user research method where you compare two versions of a single variable to determine which version is more effective. What you may want to do is borrow that concept and do a straw poll on two versions of your CV. based on a hypothesis you have. Remember, your CV is a living document. It's not written in stone. So keep iterating and continuously improve it. To wrap up, here are my tips for a strong CV. 1. Keep it tight, frictionless, concise, relevant. 2. Articulate your outcome over output. 3. Experiment, get feedback, and keep iterating. I hope this was helpful. I certainly had fun. Thank you and good luck. If you're interested to continue this conversation, hit me up on LinkedIn by scanning the QR code on screen. Until next time.